Hi everyone, this is Ray with the education team from Swirly Doo's Kit Club, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a technique for chipboard, and I'm just going to call it a simple vintage technique. So what I have is some crackle medium, and I'm going to be using a couple of other ones too, or at least one other one just to show you. Any kind of crackle medium is fine as long as it has some sort of a texture to it. I wouldn't recommend like a crackle paint necessarily, but this is something that's really thick from Viva Decor. It's like a modeling paste, so something that's thick to give your chipboard some texture. So all you need is a crackle medium, a mist, or even a distress stain would work well, or even a watercolor, and some ink. So these are things that you already have in your stash. Okay, to start out, I'm going to go ahead and put my crackle medium on here, and I like to do this two different ways. If I have something that is kind of thick, that doesn't have a lot of detail, I'll use a palette knife. But if I have something that is a little more ornate, with some fine lines in there, I'll use a combination of the palette knife and also a sponge. You can also use a small brush too. It just depends on what your preference is. So I'm going to use this. This is a new color for Viva Decor called Antique. And what I'm going to do is just put some of this on the packaging that the chipboard came in. This is a pretty Blue Fern Studios chipboard. And I'm just going to use a sponge. And with this crackle medium, and I think this is the same principle for most of them, is the thicker coat you put on, the larger the cracks are going to be. And because this one is pretty ornate, I want it to have somewhat of a thin coat. And I just see a couple of pieces that I want to make a little more defined so that that crackle medium is not sitting in the little cracks here. So you can just kind of trace it along. The rest of that looks pretty good. And if you don't get it all, that's totally fine. And you definitely don't want an even coat because you want that crackle to be all sorts of different little tiny cracks. Now my chipboard is dry and you can see some of the crackle. I know the camera isn't picking up all of it, but it looks pretty cool. I like this kind of crackle medium from Viva because it has a shine to it, so that's pretty nice. I'm actually going to be using a different kind of chipboard also. It's this little tiny reindeer. This mist is going to saturate into all the cracks, and then I'll use my heat gun. And now it's brown and gold. The parts that saturated on top of the part that didn't get into the crackles are actually pretty nice. So those look pretty good. And my next step is to take some archival ink and scrape over it. And it's really going to accent some of those little crackles. And there you have it. It's a simple vintage technique for your chipboard. So I'll show you some pictures of some other ones that I've done. Here's another piece I did of chipboard, and I used the same exact technique. The only difference is that I used some Viva Decor Croco paint in the blackberry color. So I used the same color of mist and the ink. And for this one, I used the white crackle paste that I showed you, the Windy Vecchi kind, and then I used some green mist. I saturated it, and then I used two different colors of inks. I used the StazOn in brown, and I also used some green ink over it. So please go to swirlydoos.com and check us out and see all of our other tutorials on our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. Thanks for watching.